What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who Classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first Doctor William Hartnell story, The 10th Planet. Yes, this is William Hartnell's final story as the first Doctor, and it is the first ever regeneration story from William Hartnell to Patrick Troughton. A big thing in the show's history. You know, I mean, this was the biggest thing that had ever happened. The lead role was being changed. A new actor was going to take over, and this was the last ever episode, the last story with William Hartnell as the first Doctor. So it's a very important story. Now, this episode doesn't really seem to be massively highly regarded. I mean, people give it like 8 out of 10s. I think that's around about the average. So it's definitely an above average story, but it isn't, you know, one of those pure classics that people go for. But today we're going to find out what I think of it. But anyway, this is The 10th Planet by Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis. The TARDIS lands at the South Pole in 1986. The arrival coincides with the appearance of Earth's forgotten twin planet Mondas, along with visitors from that world, the emotionless Cybermen. It's up to the Doctor and his friends to stop the creatures before they convert Earth's population into similar cyber creations, but the encounter will have a devastating effect on the Doctor. So a pretty nice little, fairly basic plot. I mean, I will be honest, this is a pretty basic plot. It actually is very similar to the Moon Base, which is the second Cyberman story, which I reviewed a while ago and I absolutely loved it. It's very similar to that in a lot of ways, but we will get into that. But anyway, let's do as we always do, starting with the cast. So we of course have William Hartnell as the first Doctor. This is his final ever appearance in his own series, and he does a very good job here. I mean, I think throughout this he was quite sick. I mean, one of the main reasons why he left the show was because he was getting pretty sick at the time of this final season, and I think he was quite sick during the recording of this. I'm fairly sure that was the reason why he actually wasn't really in part 3 at all, because of his sickness. He just couldn't, you know, do anything, so he kind of took a back seat and was pretty much asleep for the whole of episode 3. But yeah, to be honest though, from what I've seen so far, I haven't seen a lot of the first Doctor era, but from what I've seen so far, I think he actually went out on a bang. This is one of his better performances, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far. Bearing in mind this is, I think, the 7th William Hartnell story I've seen. So yeah, I think he actually did really well. He didn't really stuff up many lines. I mean, yeah, let's be honest, he didn't have many lines. He actually didn't do that much in this story, to be honest, which is a little bit disappointing. But I mean, for what he had, he didn't really have any stuff ups, and he actually did a really good job, so I enjoyed him very much. I think he did go out on a good note. Companions for this, we have Anik, I don't know how to say it, Wills as Polly. Yeah, I do quite like Polly. This is only the second time I've seen her. Previously I've seen her in the Moon Base, which is actually after this story, but anyway, I'm watching all these completely out of order. But yeah, I do quite like Polly from what I've seen of her so far. Once again, in this one she's pretty good. She's not quite as useful in this one. I like the Moon Base because it really, one of the main things, I mean, let's be honest, this story is very similar to the Moon Base in the way that it goes. I mean, it's got the same villain. It's very similar. It honestly felt really similar watching it. However, I think one thing the Moon Base did do a little bit better is it really hammered down and gave the companions, and especially Polly, who was a female companion. Female companions in the 60s were very looked down upon in some ways. They didn't really do very much. It actually really gave her something good to do. In this story, not really. The companions, Polly especially, don't really do much, so that is a bit disappointing, but still the actress does very well. And also Michael Craze as Ben Jackson. Yep, I quite like Ben. He has a couple of things to do here, but once again, companions not really doing too much in this story. However, the character himself pretty good. Alright, so let's move on to the good and the bad of the 10th planet. Starting off with the good. Earth having an identical twin planet is pretty interesting. I do like that as a concept. I mean, I suppose it's a fairly niche sort of cliche sort of thing. I don't know, not niche, cliche. You know, it's the sort of thing that you'd kind of hear about in sci-fi movies and that all the time nowadays, but I still think it's quite an interesting thing. And as far as I know, this is the first time Doctor Who ever did it. I don't know if they ever did anything similar to this again. They probably did, but you know, I think off the top of my head I can't really think of anything, but I mean, I think this is pretty cool having a twin. Like, it's not, originally I thought Mondas was just kind of a very similar planet to Earth, but no, it's actually a twin planet. It is the exact same as Earth, you know, has the same continents and everything. I love the moment where they were, you know, they saw like South America and, you know, Malaysia and all that, and they, you know, they could identify all that, but it wasn't Earth, it was Mondas. I think that's really cool how it is pretty much exactly identical, so that's pretty cool. The Cybermen show up in good time. This is another thing I really liked about the moon base. The Cybermen showed up pretty much at the end of part 1. We also got to see little glimpses of them in part 1, all throughout in this story. They show up fairly close to the end of part 1, but they have a full-on appearance. I think their first appearance is very good, and altogether we really get going with it pretty well. I mean, you know, even before the Cybermen do show up, the stuff that's going on with, you know, the spaceship, not spaceship, the whatever that ship was, that was the rocket that was going around, and you know, all the stuff with the people on the base and all that sort of thing. It's all quite interesting, and yeah, the Cybermen showing up was just very, very good. The music is of course great. The Cybermen's theme, which is, I imagine, first used in this story because this is the first Cybermen story, it's such a good theme. I mean, I think the Cybermen theme in the new series is pretty good. You know, the one they use in the Russell T Davies era, I think they still use it now, I'm not 100% sure, but you know, the one we got for the new series is really good. But the one we have for the classic series is also really good. I mean, it was in the moon base, it's obviously here for the first time in the 10th planet. I just really like that music. The Cybermen's voices and looks are very creepy. Now this is the thing that I think does seem to split opinion a bit. Some people say that the latest, you know, like the Earthshock Cybermen are the best. I think I do kind of like the design of the Earthshock Cybermen. I think they are the coolest, and the way they sound is pretty cool too. Some people like, you know, the moon-based Tomb of the Cybermen sort of Cybermen, and yeah, they're pretty cool. They have a bit more of a robotic voice, whereas these Cybermen, the Mondasian Cybermen, have this really kind of sing-songy weird voice, which I will be honest, sometimes there was one actor, I suppose, who was doing the voice, he was a bit too sing-songy, and it literally just sounded like he was singing a song. But all the others and the main Cybermen we heard, it sounded believable, it sounded robotic, but still a bit strange and a bit human, and I really like that. As for the look, yeah, they look a bit dated, but let's be honest, let's really be honest here. On like a gore and kind of psychological, I don't know, on a weird level, these are the creepiest Cybermen. The way they talk, how they just kind of open their mouth and it just speaks. You don't actually see their mouth moving, it just opens, they speak, and then they close it. It's really creepy. The fact that you can see the actor's eyes through the eye holes is really creepy. I really think that's terrifying. I honestly think these are probably the scariest looking Cybermen. They're definitely the creepiest. I don't know about the scariest, but they're definitely the creepiest. You know what I mean? There's a difference between scary and creepy. These for me really go on the creepy side. And I love it. I really love it. There's such a fear factor there. Really do love the Mondasian Cybermen. The Doctor's short but sweet emotion speech, you know, do you not have any emotions? Do you have no emotions? Really, really good little speech there. Of course, I love how he goes from like a bit of a smile to, you know, the camera stays on him and he just all of a sudden gets like this really kind of angry and also kind of disappointed, sad face. I love that. I just really like how he just, you know, you can just see him changing from happy, kind of, well, okay, I'm really kind of pissed now. Pretty cool. I like that. The animation for episode 4 is very good. I'm fairly certain it's the same animation as the Moonbase. They're the only two stories I've seen animation for so far. And yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, yes, it is very different to the, you know, the real live action stuff. The way the camera angles are done and stuff, it doesn't really fit. But it still works. It's in black and white, and you know what? It works. The characters look like they should. They actually look really good. So yeah, there's no complaints about the animation. And then finally, of course, we have the first ever regeneration in this story. The Doctor does just kind of keel over, and there we go, he's changed. But I mean, it's pretty cool, and it's sad that it is in animation and not in real life. However, still, you know, this was a big moment for the show, and if it never happened, we wouldn't have Doctor Who still here today. Alright, now on to the bad. We only really have a couple of things to talk about here. Firstly, the Doctor being absent for all of episode 3. A little bit disappointing. I mean, it works in context because, you know, the reason why he fainted, why he passed out, was because his body is getting to that age now he needs to regenerate, and that is why he regenerates in the end. I mean, it's kind of disappointing that he doesn't, you know, go out in kind of a battle. He does just kind of die of old age, but I think that is kind of the way to do it for his first regeneration. And the fact that he's just slowly kind of deteriorating throughout this story is pretty cool. It is a little bit disappointing that we don't have him in episode 3 though, really at all. However, I think the rest of the characters really did, you know, they really kept it going, and it was still very enjoyable. And when he comes back in episode 4, we're all rooting for him. And then finally, the way the Cybermen die doesn't make much sense to me. Now, they kind of, you know, after Mondas is destroyed, they kind of de-inflate. They disintegrate, I think is what the word they use, which I don't really understand because they're human. They are pretty much human underneath, right? I mean, yeah, they've got all cybernetic parts in there, but they're still pretty human. Why do they disintegrate? Is there a reason behind that? Is that just me being a bit weird, or is there something? Was there something explained that I don't understand? Is there some back lore that we're thinking about? I mean, I don't think in the context of the episode, I don't think that was really addressed. It was like, oh, the power, I think he said something about, oh, they must have been linked to some power source on Mondas, and because Mondas is destroyed, they're now destroyed. I would have liked it. It would have made much more sense if they just died, because, you know, the main power source on Mondas was destroyed. The fact that they disintegrated, for me, didn't make much sense, but I mean, it's a fairly minor thing. But that's really it. You know what, the 10th planet, I went into this one kind of thinking, okay, people give it on average 8 out of 10, so it must be a pretty decent story, but I wasn't expecting anything too great. But you know what? I enjoyed this, I think, more than a lot of people did. I'm going to give The 10th Planet a 9.5 out of 10. I really did enjoy this. This, to me, felt like the moon base. It felt pretty similar to the moon base. To be honest, it could probably knock points down from the moon base a little bit, because, you know, moon base came after this, so I can't really drop points off of this one because it came first. But it did feel like a lot like the moon base. However, with the Doctor being absent for a little bit, the way the Cybermen die being a bit strange, and also just the fact that the companions don't get quite as much to do, especially Polly, it's a 9.5, but you know what? That's bloody good. This is the first story I've given a 9.5. It's always been a 9 or a 10. So yeah, 9.5 for the 10th Planet. Maybe that's a bit of a high rating, but you know what? For me, I really like it, and it's my favourite William Hartnell story that I've reviewed so far. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.